So I want to talk about the curious effect of font. We have to do typographic work all the time for our clients. Every piece of advertising has some typographic element to a degree. And intuitively you think the best way to get your message remembered is going to be to have the most legible type font. But that isn't always the case. So let's take this question for example. If you've got a bat and a ball and together they cost $1.10, the bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Intuitively, you'll zip to, or don't feel bad if you've done this, 10 cents. It's obvious it's 10 cents, but no, it's the bat costs $1 more than the ball, therefore the ball has to cost 5 cents. And this little test is part of a test called the cognitive reflection test. And what they found with the cognitive reflection test, which is so interesting, is that when they printed that question, or 3 cognitive reflection test questions, in a really legible font, only 17% of Harvard students got all 3 right. However, when they printed it into a really complicated to read font, I think they used Proxima New or Monotype Corsiva or something horrific, and when they put it into a more difficult to read, it went from 17% to 65% got all 3 questions right, which is fascinating. And what it is because when you have something is easy to absorb, you fall into system 1 thinking. That's your fast, quick, intuitive thinking. When something is very, very difficult to read, it puts you into your more analytical, it puts a level of cognitive strain on you. And so therefore you can put a level of cognitive strain, which means someone is going to analyze data a bit more, which is really fascinating. So there is a curious effect of font whereby the most legible one isn't necessarily always the right one if you want to get your message done. I mean, how do I use this on a day-to-day basis? Knowing that you're more likely to pay attention and put yourself into a cognitive sort of cognitive strain state, I tend to put any proofreading that I have to do into a difficult to read font, because you're more likely to pay attention to it and you're more likely to pick up those errors. But also think about it in your advertising as well. If you've got something which is data driven, the most legible font might not necessarily be the best way to get your message across.